Did you know that in the UK, individuals in the top 20% income bracket are twice as likely to support Israel compared to those in the bottom 20%? This staggering disparity highlights the significant role that class plays in shaping political opinions on global issues. What's even more surprising is that among university graduates, particularly those from elite institutions, support for Israel can be up to 3 times higher than among those without higher education. This raises an important question. Why does support for Israel correlate so strongly with wealth and education? And how did we get to this point? Recently, an incident at Cambridge University made headlines when a portrait was vandalized during a protest. This act of defacement wasn't just about the portrait or the person it depicted. It was a symbol of a much larger and more complex debate that's been brewing in academic circles and beyond. The debate we're talking about is one that pits social and economic classes against each other in their views on Israel. For some, Israel represents a stronghold of Western values, democracy, and economic success in a volatile region. For others, it's seen as a colonial power oppressing the Palestinian people. These contrasting views often break down along class lines, with wealthier and more educated individuals tending to support Israel, while those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds are more likely to sympathize with Palestine. But why is support for Israel so often filtered through the lens of class? And what does this tell us about our society and the way we form our political opinions? To answer these questions, we need to explore the historical, social, and economic factors that have shaped these perspectives. We also need to confront the uncomfortable reality that class privilege doesn't just affect our access to resources and opportunities. It influences the way we see the world. At the heart of this discussion is a fundamental challenge: understanding how class dynamics shape public opinion on Israel and its policies. The way we think about Israel and Palestine influences our voting behavior, our foreign policy, and even the way we talk about human rights and justice. One of the key challenges here is that class isn't just about income or wealth. It's also about culture, identity, and access to power. People in higher socioeconomic classes often have greater access to education, media, and social networks that shape their views on international issues. They are more likely to travel, engage in global business, and interact with diverse cultures, which can broaden their perspectives but also reinforce certain biases. For example, someone who has spent time in Israel, perhaps through a business trip or on an academic conference, might come away with a positive impression of the country's economic dynamism and technological innovation. They might see Israel as a beacon of stability in a turbulent region, and their support for Israel could be reinforced by the people they meet and the media they consume. On the other hand, someone from a lower socioeconomic background might have a very different experience. They might be more likely to encounter media and social narratives that emphasize the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the West Bank. Their views might be shaped by stories of displacement, violence, and oppression, stories that resonate with their own experiences of struggle and marginalization. For them, supporting Palestine isn't just a political stance, it's a moral imperative. This divergence in perspectives creates a significant challenge. How do we bridge the gap between these different views? How do we foster a more inclusive and empathetic understanding of the Israel-Palestine conflict that takes into account the diverse experiences and identities that shape our opinions? Historically, the relationship between Western countries and Israel has been shaped by a variety of factors, including geopolitical interests, cultural ties, and shared values. After World War II and the Holocaust, many in the West saw the establishment of Israel as a necessary refuge for Jews and a symbol of Western resilience in the face of totalitarianism. In the decades that followed, Israel's strategic importance in the Middle East, particularly during the Cold War, cemented its status as a key ally for Western nations. Media plays a crucial role in shaping public opinion on Israel, and here again we see a clear divide along class lines. Mainstream media outlets, which are often owned by large corporations and influenced by government policy, tend to present Israel in a positive light. They focus on Israel's technological advancements, its vibrant democracy, and its role as a key ally in the fight against terrorism. This is the narrative that wealthier, more educated individuals are more likely to be exposed to, reinforcing their support for Israel. In contrast, alternative media outlets, which are often more accessible to lower-income individuals, tend to focus on the humanitarian crises in Palestine. They highlight stories of oppression, violence, and resistance, presenting a very different picture of the Israel-Palestine conflict. This narrative resonates with those who see parallels between the Palestinian struggle and their own experiences of marginalization. On the other hand, progressive parties, which tend to attract voters from lower-income backgrounds, are more likely to sympathize with Palestine. They frame the conflict in terms of human rights and social justice, emphasizing the need to address the root causes of the Palestinian plight. For these voters, supporting Palestine is part of a broader commitment to fighting inequality and standing up for the oppressed. Education is another key factor that influences views on Israel, and here again we see a clear class divide. Higher education, particularly at elite institutions, tends to expose individuals to a more global perspective. A pivotal moment that underscores the disparity in support for Israel among different economic classes occurred during the 2014 Gaza conflict. A poll conducted in the UK at the time found that while 58% of people in the highest income bracket supported Israel's actions, only 26% of those in the lowest income bracket felt the same way. This stark difference in opinion highlights how deeply our views on international conflicts are influenced by class. Conservative politicians, who are more likely to represent wealthier constituencies, overwhelmingly supported Israel's actions, framing them as necessary for national security. In contrast, progressive politicians who are more likely to represent working-class areas were more critical of Israel, emphasizing the need for a humanitarian response. This moment was a turning point in the public discourse around Israel and Palestine, bringing to the forefront the role of class in shaping opinions on the conflict. It also highlighted the deep divisions within society, not just over the Israel-Palestine issue, but over the broader question of how we think about justice, human rights, and global responsibility. The key insight here is that our economic status profoundly impacts how we perceive and respond to geopolitical issues. Recognizing this is crucial for a more nuanced understanding of the Israel-Palestine conflict and other global matters. It challenges us to look beyond our own biases and consider the diverse perspectives that shape public opinion. What are your thoughts on how class shapes opinions on Israel? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your perspective. Do you think your own views have been influenced by your socioeconomic background? What do you think we can do to foster a more balanced and empathetic understanding of the Israel-Palestine conflict?